right. Let me try to do doing LDO.
Are you not watching LDO?
Not yet. Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Let me have a look.
It's finally happened. Like my worst nightmare.
Oh God! Don't tell me it's just you on your own.
Yeah, it's just me on my own. Everyone's like, LDO has become so shit that everyone's just forgotten, and no one's
fucking laying in bed.
No one's turned up, Tone.
Oh my God!
Like, are you watching it? It's pathetic.
Now.
It's terrible. Just don't know what to do, man.
Do you want me to come on and just say hello?
Well, I'm going to need to do something.
Okay, let me put some clothes on.
Are you naked?
Well, I'm in bed and I sleep naked.
All right. No, don't. They're here, really.
Hello.
Don't get naked. But thank you.
See,
you do love me. That you love me enough that you'd come on.
I would have, you know.
Yeah, I know.
You little shit.
I know. Thanks, mate.
Jack's idea.
No,
thanks for
doubt.
Painless's offer as well. Thank you, Painless.
Yeah.
Well, I am getting sent a new X class and all the components, so it might stimulate me and get me back into it.
All right, sounds good.
I'll be coming down to you, and you'll be building it.
Oh, fantastic! All right, mate. I'll catch you later. Enjoy the show. Bye. And you're listening to Let's Drone Out.
Not joined this week by Tony.
Does Lee want to come on, or was he just feeling so bad for you that he was prepared to make that ultimate sacrifice as well?
No, I spoke to... I don't know. I don't know. It's up to you, Lee. You don't have to. I'm just logging in. Just logging
we
in.
welcome guests if anyone wants to come on and say hi. It's a very easy browser-based thingy, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
Anyway,
I wouldn't say
you are
we were
listening
keen to wind up
Drone
Tony.
Out.
But when Jack says, "Are you up for winding up Tony?" we both instantly said, "Always," without thinking about it.
I know. We are such shit bags. Well, I am.
Completely.
Yeah, let me
do the intro.
Well, no. If Painless is on,
We'll have to
then
redo it. Do it again.
Yeah, we'll wait for.
Have you got a direct line to Mr. Painless himself?
I do. I'm very fortunate.
Get him on the back.
Let's just do that. So if he comes on, then we'll do the intro, so the editor can just have a nice, neat intro with everyone here. But
apparently, the editor's got some amazing facilities that have been added to his editing rig, so he can now completely remove one of our audio from the stream should he desire to.
Yes, I'm very excited. I want to know where it actually records it to.
Locally. So I think each of us end up with a file locally. I don't know if we've got any little buttons that we have to click.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Hey!
How you doing, man?
Hey, good, brother. Good. Long time no. Hey!
Hello.
You know what?
Hey.
Oh yeah, someone's playing at the tab.
Yep. Someone's got their audio.
There we go. We'll try that again. Hello.
Hello. Right. Hello, you're listening to Let's Drone Out. Thank you, Eve, for tuning in. Today you are joined by everyone's favourite co-kitten.
Hello.
The man with the lovely moustache, Stephen.
Hello, good evening.
The man, the legend, the guy who's been playing with iNav more than we know, Painless 360.
Hello.
I'm Brighton till I fly. Tony's husband.
But he wouldn't come on the show.
No,
Well, he
no.
threatened to, but maybe somewhat undressed. So we thought we'd leave it at that point.
Yeah.
He would have
must-
done if Jack was super stuck. That was good. We still got him.
That's my shit test. That is, I really know LDO's in trouble to the point where he doesn't come on. But he is naked, so take what you want from that. Oh. So anyway, how's everyone been? Everyone had a good week?
Not bad. I mean, the weather's starting to pick up. I'm thinking of going out tomorrow to try and fly, see if the fingers will survive is the only thing. At least it's not super windy and super raining, but I think the field is probably a lake.
Yeah, I'm apparently out tomorrow, so I'll be with my buddy with the Avada, as far as I know. What about you, Painless? You been out much?
Lots and lots and lots, because there's been lots of stuff coming out recently, weirdly, after it being completely quiet over the summer. And the only thing was Walk Snail. So everyone talked about that ad infinitum with content creation. Then suddenly all these kind of cool things started turning up. But the problem is that then, of course, I think, I'm not sure what it is actually, but it definitely means that every time, I mean, Corey and I've talked about this in the past, that, when you get that little bit, you wake up in the morning and you open the curtains and it isn't raining and it isn't windy, you're like, right, charge batteries. And you go to the field, run, Forrest. And you have to go to the field. And then it's not for any fun or your own edification or enjoyment. It's literally you're throwing one thing after the other, getting all the footage, doing all the testing. So you have the footage to go back to spend the next 5 days editing. But I miss summer where literally every day you could go, you finish making something and you go, no, charge a battery, I'll have a go now. You have to dive in when the wind and rain stops.
Yeah, you put out a lot of videos, it looks like. Just checking out over the backlog over the last 7 days, you've got it's like a couple of planes, flight controller, a VTOL, and a final review of the Cadex Walnut, which seems to have been sort of lurking around for an eternity at this point.
Lurking's a very good way to put it, Steve, I'll be honest, because we got that as reviewers 6 weeks ago. And then as soon as they shipped it, and there seems to be this happening a lot at the moment. I don't know what you guys are finding, but historically, people, they'd make this stuff, they'd get it pretty much ready to rock and roll. Then they'd ship a reviewer's sample to you, which was usually either a pre-production version or, the first ones off the line. But it was the production version, and you get it and you do your review and you go, hey, video out, everyone was happy, bump. These days, so much stuff is coming where you get it and you start playing with it and you find a little weird thing with it. So you email them and you go, is this right? And they go, oh, no, we're doing a firmware update. Just hold on. The firmware update won't be long. And you go, oh, okay. And then you log on to YouTube at the weekend and find that 2 of the content
everyone else has released
videos anyway, which annoys me because it's like, well, what's the point? Because if it's not the firmware you're going to get when you buy it, it could either be more or less suitable for what you want. And then when you buy it, you'll be like, hang on a minute, but in his video, it showed that it had this feature and it hasn't got it anymore. So 6 weeks it took, mate. So, and the daft thing is, I was flying with it. It's a fab camera. It's real 4K. And I stuck it on the front of one of my quads. And I originally, because when I first got it, I was really excited because, again, it's gyro flow, 4K, cube, what's not to love?
Everything.
But and it was the end of summer when we got it, like September time. So when I went to my mates and we were flying, I was following him over the Yorkshire countryside, and he was flying in a big plane, not a real one, of course, radio control plane. And I was behind him filming it with a quad. It looked amazing. And then I just had to sit on all that footage, and then kept emailing them once a week. Any update?
That's impressive. You kept your review to under 10 minutes. It sounds like you've got about 2 hours of footage to squeeze in there.
I think I was bored. by after 6 weeks. I'll be honest. I think if I'd have done it there and then, it'd been like a 17-minute overview. But it was just like, you know what? I've made this video in my head so many times in the last 6 weeks. I'm kind of bored of it now. I just want to say.
Little quirky question on that one. I did hear some people say that they were getting a little bit of you could see some of the edges of the lens on the larger resolutions. Is that resolved now? Did you notice that?
I've not noticed that at all.
Some kind of lens flare where it was reflecting a little bit off the silver surround, but I guess that's in extreme sun, which we haven't had for a while.
Yeah,
what's that?
We live in the UK. We don't have that problem. I mean, maybe. I mean, it does come. It does come with ND filters, which again is a very common thing for action cameras now. And if there's any kind of sunshine at all, I'd always stick an ND8 on it,
right?
Just to help. I think if you're flying, because all the cameras at the moment come with gyro flow, and what they do is they give you 4K and they give you a crazy wide field of view to try and get so you can crop everything out of all the wobbling around. It does mean that they are really pushing the envelope in terms of what the lenses can do, because even the Runcam Thumb Pro,
so the instant you get gyro flow enabled, you're just like bang, and the sides of the image are gone. Yeah,
so it's kind of, I don't see it as that much of an issue, because the new
cool.
155 degree field of view in the new Runcam Thumb Pro. I like the other one, I thought it was fine, and then the new one arrived, and what they've had to do in the little lens cover that goes on the front, they've had to kind of cut the corners out so that they don't appear in the image. So you can't use the same lens covers from one camera to another. But everything now, because it's gyro flow, because we need 4K, and because we need to push it as far, I'm quite happy. If there's a little bit of fuzziness in the edge, I don't care, because to be honest,
same with this O3 Air unit. That's 155 degrees as well. So all the cages on the front of quads, people are finding that they either stick this really expensive camera straight out the cage and don't get protection, or they're seeing the standoffs.
What's everyone's view on what a field of view for FPV is good? Because personally, I think 155 it means that the bit you're interested in is relatively small in the overall view.
Well, they've got Rocksteady again. That's the thing, right? So that O3 includes Rocksteady built in. Yeah. So they've got stabilization.
I remember the olden days when we used to measure it in millimeters, and we all started off on like 2.1, and then it went to 1.8, and then like 1.66. That's wide, isn't it? And that made sort of sense to me. And wide was good, because if you ever went back to a narrow field of view and you tried to do a turn, it was just like the landscape was scrolling past. It didn't look like you were turning. It just looked like this constant movement, and it was really weird. Yeah, I don't know what those old lenses go to in terms of wideness, in terms of field of view.
It was nothing like that. I know when I used to do a lot of those reviews, about the 120 to 135 was what I personally liked. I mean, I'm not like a gate smasher, so that I'm not interested in that. I like altitude and landscape, but 120, 135 was about right. I had some really wide ones that were like 145, 150. And I remember flying in the little park near me that has all the goalposts. And I usually go there when I've got a whoop, because you can fly through the goalposts. And I couldn't see the goalposts until I was about 2 feet away, because they were like three pixels wide, and then they were suddenly got past it, because I was so giddy. And it was just like this terrible idea. But yeah, it seems to be all like I say, we've lost the millimeters. We're into diagonal field of view now.
I don't know what most of my cameras are.
I'm glad you're here though, Lee, because I did want to ask you about two of your recent videos. And the first one, the Epsilon, which I know must sting. Am I saying it right? I just want to say Epsilon.
Oh, I know
it's written Eclipsalon.
Eclipsalon. Is that how it's pronounced?
I say Eclipson, and the owner hasn't corrected me, so I'm sticking with that. But it's something like that. It's like
my brain wants to replace some of the letters and say Epsilon.
This is the one where you 3D printed an entire wing.
Well, the thing is, I didn't. There's the full story. If you want to kind of sit back and open a beer, is I was approached by the guy behind it, who was like, "Do you want to do a 3D printed?" You get these requests all the time. You want to do a 3D printed wing, and at the time I wasn't really that bothered, but I had a lot of people contact me on the channel to say, "How about trying 3D printed stuff?" Because it's something, it was like this year's VTOL. Last year was there was a lot of 3D printed stuff. So I thought, okay, yeah, you know what, it's got to the point now where I've had so many requests. I really need just to have a go at this. As a guy who loves 3D printing, it kind of marries two favorite parts of the hobby. So I managed to get my hands on a roller filament, couldn't get the lightweight PLA, then realized I got sent the files, loaded the files into the Cure, bearing in mind there's probably about 30 pieces, separate pieces that you have to print to then glue together with industrial CA.
And you probably have to print some of them more than once, so it's going to take a while. Yeah.
So, because the first print's a test, right? Isn't it really? And if it comes out okay, then bonus. Because you don't want to mess about with your adhesion and that. You want it all to be pucker if you're going to fly it. So, I loaded the first part into Cura and clicked slice, and it went, and it said it's going to take 9.5 hours. And I thought, well, I've cocked up the settings. Hang on a minute. So I kind of no, everything's right, and I resliced it in 9.5 hours. So I was like, oh my god,
this is a print that will fill your entire printer, and you need to come back tomorrow. And I hope you've got a quiet printer, because that's going to be going all night.
Yeah. So I went back to the guy and I said, how long do these things take to print? Because this is all new to me, right? So this is all, breaking new ground. And he said, about a week. And I was like, what? And he was like, it's about a week. So there's a guy in the UK who does his, who's a test pilot for Eclipson. A guy called Steve, who was amazing, and the owner put me in touch with Steve, and Steve went, if you ship me the filament, I'll print you one. And I was like, that would be amazing, because I literally do not have 8 days to babysit in a 3D, because I'm one of those guys that won't leave a 3D printer when it's running. I'm just old-fashioned, right? It's like I won't leave a lipo charging, things like that. So I'd have been sat there, rewatching, I don't know, Battlestar Galactica,
staring at the progress meter.
Or something. Yeah, absolutely. Going, oh, come on. So he was brilliant, and he printed the whole thing for me, and it arrived in this bloody big cardboard box. And it's the biggest Airfix kit you've ever seen, is what it kind of turned up like. Imagine if you cut all the things off the sprue and then just emptied them into a box. That's what it arrived like. So then it took me probably about a week to put together. Had to order the special medium viscosity industrial CA. That is what you need to use.
Right. Yeah.
So long story short, that was June, July, summer holiday things, right? August, and then September I started putting the electronics in, because then I did a video with the guy behind eCalc, Marcus, because I printed it out of PLA, not lightweight PLA. It was heavier than it was supposed to be. Or heavier than it could have been, let's put it that way. So I wanted to make sure the motor and prop had enough static thrust, etc., etc. So we worked all that through in a video in eCalc. So then I ordered the specific motor and prop and all the electronics, reused the flight controller. It was another 2 days putting it all together. And then we went to the field and it was all over in a second and a half, and it was smashed to pieces.
Well, so, what you said, did it just completely smash to pieces, or is it slightly disassembled itself?
No, it's knackered with a capital F. I could, if I really wanted to, I could get an X-Acto out. I could try and patch and repair the big pieces that were broken and had pieces up, reprint the bits that were knackered.
So it didn't just snap along the joins; it ripped the print apart.
It did. It snaps along the joins, but it also snaps along things like there was one area that I was worried when I was putting it together, that I said when I was doing my build of it, that I was worried that it felt that it was a weak point, because the whole wing, and it's a bloody long wing, so if you hit it at the end, it's a lot of force. It's literally like 0.4 of a millimeter around the outside that goes against the body, and there's a couple of vertical, because of course the supports are printed internally. There's a couple of vertical supports that you're going to glue as well. And I was like, this whole wing is held on by literally this one seam of CA. I thought there might have been a carbon fiber rod that would go through into the wing root to support them, which would have been the way I would have done it. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You'd assume there's a spar in there somewhere, right?
Or a very large surface for lots of CA to provide lots of adhesion. It snapped there, but the nose was smashed and crinkled. We lost it, but the thing is, it did, like, the motor mount was snapped. So the motor, it was one of those with the shaft that comes out the back of the motor. So the motor span, ripped the wires out the ESC. but only after it had wound the wires around the shaft and worn the insulation off and shorted all 3 phases together. So yeah, it was kind of, there are times when the radio control gods go, you know what, mate, this isn't for you. And that was what I will almost certainly go back to 3D print, because I was so annoyed. That's not true. I wasn't annoyed. I wasn't annoyed at my friend, definitely, because he was heartbroken. He was having, to be fair, he was having a crap day before I turned up to go, hey, mate, do you mind if can we go in your field and we'll chuck a wing, right? So he was heartbroken before at the start of the day. Then I turned up, he threw it, he smashed it into the ground, and I was going, it's fine, don't worry about it. And then he was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that happened.
It doesn't even look like it had that hard of a landing. It just went down into the grass and totally mashed itself up.
It was like a special effect.
Oh, wow.
But you can see that right wing absolutely separates where that bit I was worried about. It just kept come off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to do this.
No, it's fine. But the thing is, this looks
so promising.
Well, no, because what you can't see, what happened, and it's absolutely not my friend's fault, is that the little dippy tab that's underneath, which is just ahead of the CG marks that he was holding to throw, because it's so big, as he started to throw it, it tilted back in his hand, and he's only holding it, and it just went up, because I'm standing off to the side with my radio, right, my goggles on my head, ready to rock and roll. And as soon as you started throwing it, it kind of all went into slow motion.
You could see it just start to lift up, and
it went 45 degrees in the, and I'm thinking, it's got thrust, but it hasn't got that much. And it just stalled, nosed over. I now have auto launches going, come on. And so it fires the motor to full throttle, and it went whang, straight in the ground. It was all over. The audio is hilarious because it's I cut it all out for the video, because it literally is my friend just like this little pained yelp.
It's just
and I'm
beep, 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 beep.
Well, no, actually, no, there wasn't a lot of swearing. I just went, that wasn't a very good throw, mate. And then I got over to him and realized he was almost crying, and it was like, you know what, it's fine. I don't,
it was nice after that disaster to see you put a big grin on your face with a brand I've just bought my first plane from, actually, the Atom RC. I got the little flying fish that they produced, and it looks like there's something that you've described as wonderful here. And your favorite plane of the year, was it?
Yes, by a country mile. Yeah. So if you imagine that flying fish eats its 3 Weetabix for an entire year, this is what it would grow
big
into.
and strong. Yeah.
Gets big and strong, and puts a few pounds on.
Grows a V-tail inexplicably, but yeah.
Hey, look, all choices are, the plane could be any gender it wants, right? If it wants, it's all good. But this is lovely. This is something that is, well, I think it's just out now. Atom RC are probably my favorite fixed wing manufacturer at the moment. ZOHD used to do amazing stuff for modern FPV wings and planes. They've completely lost the plot. We haven't had anything decent out of them for 2 or 3 years. Interestingly, there was a guy there called Ari. I don't know if any of you heard of him. Ari was the guy that did all the community engagement, and he's the one that I worked with to create the AR Wing Pro. They used to be the guys that had all this innovation. And Atom RC have just kind of come out of nowhere and just seem to be smashing it. I mean, that thing.
Look at that.
Just it's jumped into the air like a homesick angel, I think is how my friend puts it. But it was before I could kind of get the auto launch off, because I know it was already up passing 240 feet. It just shot up, and I was like, holy crap. Whereas the funny thing about that day is that particular day where we made in that plane, it was exactly a week after we'd had the crash with the Eclipse model. And I rang my friend again. I said, I've got 2 other things I need to fly to make videos on. Are you around? And I could hear the trepidation in his voice. He was like, oh God, here we go again. He was like, yeah, I'm around, mate. So I was like, great, I'm coming over. So I turned up with this, and I also turned up with the new Zake 800 Jumper VTOL. he just took one look at this, and I could see all the color drain out of his face. And I just said, "Don't worry about it. We'll do the VTOL first because you don't have to throw that, all right? And then if it all goes well and the radio control gods are giving us the thumbs up today, then I will throw." You'll notice it was me that time. I will throw, and then if it all goes wrong, it's completely on me. And he was like, "Okay, mate, that's fine." So I said, "If you can wear the hat cam and be my spotter," and he was like, "Yep, nope, happy to do that." So that was the basis we did it. Because I think if I'd have asked him to throw it, it'd have probably gone, "You know what? I'm out. I'm going back in and having a cup of coffee and a lie down." Because it really, honestly, it did traumatize him. Because normally we were throwing foam planes, and you know what it's like. If you throw something that's foam and it hits the ground, it bounces. If something breaks one seam of hot glue and you're back in business, it's rare that you have a
Not
little.
so with a 3D print. Yeah, it's like throwing a jigsaw puzzle into the air.
Sorry, do you think in retrospect the way to launch it was the two-handed over the head thing for that sort of thing, where it's
you might have been left
underneath,
catapulted the fuselage straight out the middle doing that.
I think what we should have done was hired a hot air balloon and then dropped it off the side, and that would have probably worked okay.
Tie it to the VTOL next time. Yeah,
I just tow it. I think we were just unlucky. I think it was the perfect storm of things that went wrong with it. And it was heartbreaking that we didn't manage to at least see it fly, because it is such a beautiful wing because it's a very weird shape. You couldn't get that shape in foam easily. But
very
yeah,
thin as well.
It was. It looked magic. I was just gutted because it's probably the longest build I've ever done, and it was the shortest flight I've ever had. So the moral of the story is, don't take that much time. Just just crack it out and get to the field and get it flying. Don't fanny about.
I like the fact you're still calling it a flight, but a bad landing is
it
what
was
we're
in
calling
the
it.
air.
It was in the air. It was technically in the air, not under any kind of
control.
No. Look, if we're going to start splitting hairs, no. It was an unintended landing, I think, is what I'll call it. But yeah, it was good. So no, but we've had, like I said, going back to what I was saying, we've had a lot of stuff in. Unusually, because summer was crap again. It was like when COVID first happened and China shut down, and all the YouTubers started doing live streams because they had nothing to talk about. It was like that, and I was like, where's all the kit? The only thing we had was the warp snail stuff that everyone was making videos. Obviously now the DJI, the new DJI stuff, so everyone's on that bandwagon banging that drum like crazy. But I was talking to Jack earlier today, and I made a video this afternoon because I've been making videos, believe it or not, since November 2007. Was my first ever video on YouTube to help somebody else with radio control. And I have over 16,000 videos at this point. Sorry, 1,600 videos at this point. 16,000, maybe another.
Still a large number, but not quite as insane, right?
It gets that I have to do Google search to remember if I've done a video on it, because some of them are, because like you said, when you're creating that much stuff. And I had a great question today. I was talking to Jack about this earlier. A guy pinged me a question with bearing in much how much information now exists in the forums and YouTube and the community at large. And he pinged me a question and said, I've got a 30 amp motor, but I've got a 40 amp ESC. Is that okay? Or is that going to be too much for the motor? And I thought, you know what? I've answered that question probably 24 times in different videos about power systems and motor and clock basics. Yeah, so exactly. So I was looking for all this to say, see timecode 2311 at this video. And I thought, no, hang on a minute. I'm missing the point. If somebody is asking me the question, they've obviously recently come into the hobby. I would hope they've done a basic Google search, maybe. But if they're doing a basic Google search, what they're going to search for? If I search for what this guy would search for, do I find a video? The answer is no, I don't. So I was like, okay, guess what? So I made a video today about, I think it's called the name of it is, can I use an ESC with more amps than my motor or something like that is the name of it, because that's more or less what the guy's going to search for. But actually, but that kind of stuff, although, you know, making that bloody 3D printed plane that took 4 months to make and 1.5 seconds to destroy, this video is one of those kind of
years ago.
Here we go. That's the only one that's still up there. There were ones before then that I've got rid of. Yeah, look at that gear mesh demo.
Wow.
Now, this is one of the reason that these were made. These were back in the day where I used to be in the forums a lot because they're all helicopter stuff. You'll notice. And I would do that thing. I've talked about it in the past, but you know, somebody would ask a great question. You know, how do you set the clearance in your gear mesh on a helicopter? And see, hand's still there.
That looks a lot like the little hub stand.
It is. It's a rebranded hub. That's exactly what it is. It's a H107 or whatever it was.
Oh yeah,
Hubsan.
Viper. Hubsan.
Yeah. It was this is my first ever quadcopter. I was into helis, and heli guy back then advertised this, and in the photo it looked really big. so I was like, oh, that looks quite good. So my wife said, oh, I'll get you one for Christmas. So I said, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So do you remember? I used to get loads of stuff from Heli Guy. I got a gift certificate once given to me. Don't know, and that's still the little seal that was on it. It's still here on my desk. But when it arrived, I found it so easy to fly because as a heli pilot, it wasn't trying to kill itself every 2 minutes, and I burnt through 2 or 3 sets of brush motors on that little thing, and taught myself nose in hovering. And then when the spring came, I could nose in hover my heli. And I'd probably gone through £300 worth of spares fixing the heli every time I cocked that up. That Viper saved me a fortune. Must be, you see, look, must be Christmas.
That's the FPV version.
Santa's out. It must have been December.
I'm sad the fire's not lit. But mind you, the chocolate Santas might melt unless they're ceramic.
No, they're wood, but well spotted, Jack. Yeah. So, but literally, my poor wife that year had to watch Strictly Come Dancing every Saturday night with this thing hovering in front of her face as I was practicing nose in, and that is the reason. That little bloody thing is the reason why I got into quadcopters. And the next quad I got was actually from Armatan, Chris.
So I learned quads on that after a disastrous stint with one of the large polystyrene models. I can't remember what the heck it was called, a Wi-Fi controlled thing. AR drone, that was it. And as a homage to that, I have the little FPV one, which I managed to put a little F3 flight controller in. And yeah, just for giggles, it's running beta flight now.
They're such great little models, though, don't you think, Steve? They're really stable. They just bounce off stuff.
Well.
Yeah,
very important when you're learning.
Yeah, I wish there were. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah. Is that a Xbox 360 and Nintendo Wii there? That's how old this is.
Gee whiz, it probably is, mate. Yeah, believe it. Yes, it will be a 360, and yeah, that does look like that. Yeah, back in the day, bless. Oh.
No, it doesn't. Oh God.
So you've seen a lot again. You've seen a lot of VTOLs, and what's that bargain VTOL like? You kind of.
I wanted to ask about this as well.
You weren't sure about that.
It sounds like there's some controversy about them copying and what the license was, and if they're allowed to do it. And that
I didn't bring this up.
What was going on? Oh, I wanted to bring it up. It's all my fault.
So the short version of this is I got sent this out the blue. So it literally arrived and I opened this box and I was thinking, what the bloody hell's this? So I guessed it was Jumper because there's no manual in the box, but there's kind of the Jumper logo embossed on one of the plastic parts. So I emailed Jumper just going, hello, I've been sent this thing. What is it? And they went, oh, it's our VTOL. And I went, oh, right, brilliant. I haven't got a manual. Have you got a manual? And they went, not yet. No, we're still working on the manual. And I went, okay, right, send me one when you're ready. So I posted a picture thinking, this looks actually pretty cool. And I had a quick look online to see if anyone was listing it. And the only place selling it at the time was AliExpress, which is always a little bit of a red flag. Only AliExpress is listing it. So I posted a picture just going, this looks interesting, blah, 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 and had a message from a guy called Stephen who has spent a lot of time as part of a group. He's actually a university in the States creating this thing called the Mini Hawk VTOL. Now, the Mini Hawk VTOL is a 3D printable, simple, easy VTOL for people to play with, right? Now, I never heard of this. So when he sent me the link, I was thinking, no, they won't have copied it at all. So I clicked on his link and opened up his project, and it's exactly the same model. The difference is his is 3D printed. It's all one piece. And then someone has taken that model and then just figured out how to make it in foam, reinforce it, make all of the connectors. They've obviously made the molds to inject the foam into, which is not a cheap thing. That is, those
so they
molds...
didn't just completely rip it off and take the 3D prints and chuck them into molds then. That's something.
I think no. I think there is an argument to make it sufficiently. It's an evolution. However, what happened with this is that the reason that Stephen was so annoyed about this is that Jumper had never contacted him or talked to him about the fact that they were doing this, which I think is the ethical, professional way to do it, right? And also he'd shared all of this stuff as part of the project under the Creative Commons non-commercial blah 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 license, right? So Jumper had obviously taken this great idea that had come, and then somebody, because I'm not sure Jumper has done it, because if Jumper had done it, they'd have written a manual. But anyway, so they've taken it and they've done a load of engineering to turn it into a foam model, because now the wings come off. They've got a flight controller in it. They've designed the PDB. All the wiring's done. The RD pilot setup sorted out. It's ready so you can plug in analog or digital HD FPV in the front. It's actually really quite good.
Fair amount of integration work.
Yeah, I would say it's several versions on from the 3D printed
It's like they
design.
didn't do the from scratch design, but they did a bunch of integration work to make it easier to use.
So now, as of today, actually, it looks like, because I did 2 videos where I was shaming Jumper a little bit about this, because I was going, this isn't on.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, these guys have put in the work for the design, and even if it is, it's
they should at least make a reference to the license.
Yeah. So that conversation has started. So there was 2 things that happened almost immediately when I did my first videos on this. I got do you know Andrew Tridgewell? Tridge, who's one of the main... Right, okay. So Tridge is one of the main Ardu pilot developers. And him and I chat on Skype all the time. So he's got hold of one. Sadly, he got hold of one where one of the servos is knackered, so his doesn't work, but that's a whole nother story. But he plugged it into Ardu Pilot, because when I got it, I said, I'm not going to make a video until you give me a manual, right? Because it means I've got to then plug it into the computer, figure out all the stuff you've done to set it up, how it all works, what all the stuff needs to be, right? I've got to do all that. And I said, I will do that all for you. I can write the manual and stuff like that, but I'm not doing that for free. That's not my job as a reviewer. You sent me a product, give me the manual. So I was hanging on. So Andrew then sends me an email because he said, right, we've looked at it. That here's a list of all the things. I'm not going to go through all the things that they'd found that could be improved in the existing setup. So give me one example. The ESCs that run the motors in it are capable of BD shot, but they're set for PWM control. So if we turn on BD shot, that allows us to get
directional D shot.
Yeah,
get the RPM telemetry. Yeah, exactly.
So we can do all that. We get much faster control and much faster telemetry from all the motors. That means we can. I'm saying we here because the Audiponic guys are doing it. I'm sat on the sidelines watching.
Yeah, it means you can filter out the motor RPM and stuff, so you just get much better frequency. Well, response to oscillations and frequency.
Exactly. We can push the tune. We can make it fly an awful lot better. It doesn't have a
whole other thing, though. Trying to get these manufacturers in China to ship stuff with BlueJay, which is free. There's this ongoing push that, go on, it's free, please use it, please use it. But it's really hard to get them to pre-flash ESCs. They're just like, no, just send them out with the old BL heli from umpteen years ago.
Yeah, because it kind of works. so now we've got the two conversations happening. One is the RD pilot team are now talking to Jumper, and that the RD pilot team are now feeding back to Jumper all the things that should change, because there's also an issue with the way the ID works on the flight controller. That means that Mission Planner could flash it incorrectly, but that's a whole. So there's that stuff going on.
Is it a sketchy cloned flight controller, or is it a decent flight controller?
I think it's probably more the former, because the ID on the flight controller is not that flight controller. It's there so that Mission Planner will talk to it. So it's something else. I've never seen it before, but it seems to work okay. And then, so you got that conversation. You got the other conversation now happening between the guys who created the original 3D print and now Jumper. So both those streams are underway. So I wasn't going to make a video, so I got the manual, but I've had over the last week about between 7 and 10 people contact me going, "Oh my God, I have already bought one. Have I just wasted 200 quid?" And I'm kind of going, oh, because some of them have bought them because they watch the first 10 minutes of the video, go and buy one, then watch the last 5 minutes while I call out all the stuff I'm not happy with. So I was like, oh, sugar, I'm going to have to figure this out. So because I've been working with the RD pilot team and Andrew's been amazing anyway, I had a rough idea of how it was set up. So then I logged in and figured it out, and there's a video out on Saturday with the maiden flight showing you how to set the radio up and do all that. So I've ended up making a bloody video that tells you how to set the thing up anyway. But
that's going to be in the place on their website where the manual should be now, Lee. There's going to be your video there.
Yeah, probably. And it means that now everybody that has a problem with it is going to leave a comment on my video, and I'm going to be free support, frontline support for the product. But there were so many people. I'm literally getting 2 or 3 a day at the moment of people contact me going, "Oh my God, I've ordered one of these. Have I just wasted my money?" Particularly as lots of people have been putting on the comments, "Don't buy this. This is a rip-off product." Some people are getting, but lots of people that I've talked to don't care. It's a £200 VTOL. You can buy. Well,
it's
actually,
a fixer-upper.
Yeah, it is. It's a like we were talking about, the Viper the Hubsan was kind of an entry level drug into full quads.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of those that you get, and then you end up with a $2,000.
You swap out the flight controller and you swap out the ESC and do God knows what.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, it looks like the price went up on this today.
We're going to have to hire a documentation team, guys. Yeah. Per unit cost? Oh,
extra $20. Yeah, that sounds about right to me. But the funny thing is, it's even with the suboptimal configuration of Ardu plane and quad plane that's on this thing, it flies great. No problems at all. It actually flies really well. I was quite impressed.
That's nice.
So I can't wait to see what they do with it. I just hope they take care of the Mini Hawk project, because I think that would be the professional thing to do. Because if they don't, every time someone talks about this thing, then the first reaction is going to be
stuff.
Yeah, it comes in its own case. It breaks down.
Like a Phantom 4 case, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a foam injection molded thing. It doesn't quite fit in the case because of the servos, but it's close.
Oh, okay.
So am I right with these things? There's like a minimum you should have done, and there's the
Wayne,
you should have done.
hot. Your mic is super hot.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Better, worse?
Awful.
Oh.
Ow.
I'm glad it's not just me. I thought I caught my volume.
Yeah. There's definitely something up with your rig, because
everyone
you
else
can
is
hear
normal
your
volume,
Mac,
and it's like you're screaming.
I'm gonna unplug.
He's the reason of a high jet fan in the background. I thought Painless was like, oh yeah, I need to 3D print something.
Yeah.
No, it's not me. The reason I look so sweaty is I literally got out the shower, came in here to do some messages, and saw the time and thought, oh, the show's going to start. So bring the show up, and I literally caught the bit where Jack was going, oh, nobody's here. So I was like, oh my God. So that's the reason I have the glow, because I've literally stepped out of the shower.
Yeah, I thought it was just mood lighting. I thought you thought the production had gone up. Like Painless was
No.
like, "Yo, gas! I want to be
Hey,
gaslit now."
I have figured out a way to light my face. You know, like before, where it used to go dark, and I was kind of sat in it was like an anonymous video.
Yeah.
You know, I have at least figured out how to get lights in here now. Go on, Curry. Give us a
I've
warble.
got an angle lamp with a Hue RGB bulb over here, which works a treat.
Are you
It
still
helps if
playing?
you unmute yourself.
Curry, go on, be brave. Talk to us, Wayne.
Brace yourselves, everybody.
Yeah. Thank God it's separate.
Okay, so what I was
My God, thank God.
Oh, that's better.
All right, okay.
Is there like a minimum they should have done versus a preferred? So in Commons, Creative Commons, the minimum is you have to basically say where the original design came from. You have to sort of name them, but the right thing to do would work with the company or the individuals to say, I want to work with you and produce something based on your design.
I think the minimum Creative Commons one that I used to do a lot of stuff under is just called attribution, and literally that's it. You can do whatever you want with it. You can sell it. You can set it on fire. So long as you say this is Painless 360 design, you're good. You've complied with the license, and then it gets more and more severe until some of the most restrictive ones are the ones that I currently use, which are non-commercial, no derivatives. Because what other people can do then is they can take it and sell it, which happened to me loads of times. I constantly would go to shows, and back in the days where we used to have these big radio control shows, and there'd be lots of people selling stuff, and they'd have it, there'd be those kind of rotating plastic packets of stuff that you would have things like prop spanners and all those kind of things. And I'd always find
a 3D model I built.
and I'd be thinking, wow, that really look like the skull prop spanner that I designed. That's really, hang on a minute. And then I'd pick it up and look at the back, and it'd be like, and there wouldn't, if it just literally said designed by Painless 360, then they'd been in compliance. So I changed it to non-commercial, so I could say to people, and I've had it since, where they've got, well, that's all right, isn't it? I was like, no, you're in breach of the license. And the other one is the no derivatives, because the thing is, if you allow derivatives, then I could take your design, Curry, change a handful of things, and say, right, it's my design now.
Could literally take your spanner and remove the etching on the back that says by Painless 360, just blank that out and be like, my spanner now.
My spanner now, and I'm going to do whatever I want with it, and you can't stop me. So I use those two. But the way I view these things, and this is something I was saying to Stephen on an email today, is that there are things that I share in places like Thingiverse and stuff that even with that license, I know people are going to rip off, right? Because China is like the Wild West in terms of protection of intellectual property. You tend to, there's only about 3 or 4 factories that make all the stuff that we use in the hobby, and it's full of industrial espionage. I mean, some of the stories that I've got from Fat Shark and Radio Master, and it would make your toes curl. It's ridiculous. There's
one thing having a license. It's another having license and lawyer money to go and enforce the license, because you can't just automatically enforce it. You've got to bring a lawsuit against the company, and then take them to court and prove that they are in the wrong
in another country. Which is gonna like
China,
which is China. So I initially, some of the conversations I had with Jumper were To be fair, I was speaking to a marketing guy, not the engineers, but the marketing guy was saying, I can't believe that we've taken this. And then just today the conversation has started by the look of it between. And I'm not going to comment on that because that's that's their business. But I'm just happy that the conversation has started.
It can be as simple as saying just thank you very much to this person, and that's it. They just put a note on the webpage where they sell it and say thank you for the help designing this by so and so. You see this with quad manufacturers quite a lot. Like there are a lot of frames, like HGLRC did a lot of stuff by I think Steve C. And there were some designers who popularized lightweight long-range frames that were 4-inch frames a couple of years ago. Dave C. And his designs were widely copied and used. And the same with Chris Ross's AOS line. If you just accredit people for a lot of these designs, then it gets rid of that bad blood right off the bat. As long as you reach out and say, this is awesome. Maybe they want a kickback. But if you've got Creative Commons licensing or not already, it's as simple as saying, thank you for your help designing it. move on, right?
Yeah,
And when it's that simple and they don't do it, it's a bit of a sting, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. And I think if they don't do it, and it means that every time it appears, there's going to be a load of people will pile on and just go, it's been ripped off, do not buy it. And it's a shame because it's actually a bloody good design, and somebody's put in a shed load of work to take it from that 3D printed version, which is all one piece, the wings don't come off, into a foam version that snaps together, and the flight controls set up and all that stuff. It beggars belief why they didn't do a manual, and why they didn't. Well, I kind of know, because it's a different culture. But if I was using something of yours, Curry, I was going to do, I would, and we have in the past, we'll ring each other up and go, oh, blah, 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 and we'll have a quick chat about it and figure out what we're going to do. It doesn't seem to be that way of working. It's almost like you do it when, you get called out for it, rather than you do it as a course of, just a professional way you handle the business.
And it could,
fingers
be an
crossed,
entryway into the community. People who know VTOLs, if they see that it's designed by so-and-so, they're going to give it more respect than Jumper. Oh, they're the people who did this old T16 radio, and then everyone moved to Radio Master. Like, it gives them a boost. It gets them into that community.
It's an opportunity, if they'd handled it a little bit differently, probably a little bit better, for Jumper, like you say, to rebrand themselves as not just a radio company. To be a model manufacturer, because actually in the hobby we could do with a few more of those. That's not necessarily a bad thing. We don't, the people like Hobby King don't make any planes anymore. People like ZOHD and Solid Model
could do with people who take a punt on new designs out of the community as well. People who are willing to look out there for new designs rather than just take something that used to work and sell a slightly tweaked version of it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a great idea if there was a company like Jumper who, absolutely, was a place that if you have a great proven design that's 3D printed, you could take it to them and work with them, and there would be some kind of commercial arrangement where they evolve that into a phone. Yeah, that would, because that means they
go, well, I think we'll make 2,000 of these. It'll pay for this many pieces of molding. So what parts do we want to make out of injection molding? Oh, let's this, and this. Off we go.
We save all this money on R&D because that's already been done. They can provide us with a flight controller configuration file. All that stuff could be done. That actually, it's wouldn't that be so cool that and have the community somewhere that you could almost have an inbox that you could just email and just go, check out this URL. Yeah. This is a great VTOL wing plane, whatever.
And if they're working with the community, then before you know it, there's going to be a website up there that dissects that ArduPilot configuration and spells out why each section is configured the way it is, lays it out better than some hastily printed manual would accomplish.
Yeah. So I think there is an opportunity. I am excited the fact that Atom RC have brought out the first iNav inside plane, which is the one that we were looking at before, that Swordfish. Mm-hmm. They're really sticking with that kind of marine animal naming convention. And it's a great plane, but the thing is, again, with that one, they've put a flight controller in it with iNav. It looks like a Maytech 405, but it isn't.
Talking of this, we've had a question from Caroline, who's asked me but meant you. And she says, will Atom RC be selling the flight controller separately? It looked like a decent F405 based one. Do you have any insight to that?
I don't. I'm having problems with it because I think there needs to be some optimization of the setup on the flight controller. So here the short version is that all the testing of it looks like it's been done for CRSF receivers, because Express LRS is everyone flies Express LRS apparently. I still use SBus. I'm old school.
I saw you put an FR Sky in there, and I was thinking, wait, what? You've got your digital VTX, and you've got your FR Sky receiver. Like one of those is the wrong generation for the other one.
Because I still have my Tyrannus from 2014 that still works flawlessly. I still have a whole.
Have you seen the little cutout that they have on the back of Tyrannuses? The little cutout. don't know what it's there for, but some people.
Yeah,
tell
that's
me
where
to
my
use those
crossfire
things.
goes. Yeah. But the thing is, I literally have a briefcase full of X8Rs from when I used to have loads and loads of planes. So as those things were retired and passed on, I've ended up with literally a briefcase. of
Whoa,
X8Rs.
Jack! How did you do that? How did he do that? Don't know.
Is that a full-size crossfire, bud?
Yeah.
Hey, proper.
Jack's all about the museum pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it fits right in there. Right.
Yeah.
Just, it's like
Yeah,
they designed it to go in there or something.
My back door has crumbled, which ironically is a thing I could relate to medically. But by the way, Stephen, speaking of history, I've got you a little present, but I don't know whether Uncle Lee can help with this. But you've got a HS 1177 here, and you've got a shitty H frame, and I think it's 4, maybe it might be 5-inch, and an old clover leaf.
Oh, look at that bare wire.
I know, and look, a KK2 mini. So you
Too many.
can join with me and Curry Kitten, and if Uncle Lee still has this, the thing, you can join the flying pieces of crap.
Look,
Or I
don't-
could take it and I could put one of these in, a 40 amp AIO with an H743.
You're not allowed to.
It just, yeah, kids. Honestly, you don't know you're born. You really don't. You don't. It's that quad that you just showed, Jack, is something called an Armatan CNC 258. It's made of billet aluminium that's been machined. It could kill somebody if you hit it with it. And that was my
And if it crashes, it won't break. It'll just deform and end up really slightly out of symmetry and wobbly.
I bent an arm on that. I had to order another arm. But that it's in the old days where we used to use plain motors. Do you remember that before we had real? Look at that.
2822. That is a giant.
1800 kV. You know that's low kV because
It feels like I need a demo here.
7-inch props, kids. 7-inch props. But that was my second ever quad. That's the one I bought after having that little Hubsan Viper.
Oh,
still got it.
It looks like Curry's been to the antique shop as well.
This is my. I'll be flying this tomorrow. This is my KK build
Flying.
of oldest stuff I could find, and it has
What
got
is
the
with
original
your
KK
webcam?
flight controller in there, which I had to reverse a gyro on this, and that meant I had to put a screwdriver in, turn a pot, turn it on, put the throttle up, turn the pot back, and see what happens. And I even found a battery from 2013 to use on it.
it's going to fly sideways.
The PZO 420 with a little servo there.
Oh, tilt as well.
Oh,
The little
right.
10-inch props. Keep it subtle. And look at the whole thing just flexes.
I was flashing this recently and just testing out some new software on this. I thought, for balance, here's a modern 7-inch with, again, an H743 DJI, not current, I know, mag, couple of antennas. Really, just sensible 8S 7-inch quad.
Yawn.
What's wrong with that?
What's the point of that?
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Let's go old
Jeez.
school.
Oh my word!
It's yeah, we've come a long way, kids, haven't we? We really have. It's these days we don't have to have. Well, Jack and I were talking earlier on about how the hobby used to be. You'd buy all of these 15, 20 pound boards, and you'd have about 6 of them. 4 would be ESCs. You'd have radios like that, and you'd spend days wiring this bloody thing up. Trying to, the on-screen display wasn't on the flight controller. Your ESCs definitely weren't.
Yeah.
It was. Oh my god, yeah. It's and now an all-in-one. You just solder everything to it. Bang, bosh, away you go. It's funny.
It's something
Have
of a
we-
godsend.
Have we got enough
is.
time to just quickly, cover this? Time's got away from me. But hang on, let's talk about the said sales agreement of Red Cat. The sale of Riot and Fat Shark Holdings will allow us to focus our efforts on capital, military, and defence.
Do you know who it's being sold to as well?
Is it up for sale or has it been sold?
It was sold by Red Cat CEO Jeff Thompson to Jeff Thompson. So he sold it to himself, apparently, or a shell company that he owns. But he got a great deal. But the main thing appears to be that Rotor Riot and Fat Shark are basically moved out of the Red Cat portfolio. So he sold them to himself. He's moved them out of his main company. That's all. Apparently now, we said last week they'd hired a defense advisor to be on the board of Red Cat. So it looks like they're going all in on government and military. And then Fat Shark and Rotor Riot get kind of moved out of the serious boys crowd into just, we have these as well, somewhere on the sidelines. So kind of odd to see what's happening there. I was surprised to see them both move together. I was kind of expecting maybe Rotor Riot to be moved out as just a hobbyist collective and online shop, whereas maybe Fat Shark would have some future in industry. But it's odd to see that Fat Shark are clearly not part of the industrial drone crowd, according to that delineation with teal and everything.
I think it's interesting. I don't know whether or not they were hoping, because I didn't know if the reason that they got the Fat Shark and the walk snail stuff and all that happened, that there was an eye on some kind of military contract or application, particularly with Ukraine using so many smaller drone systems. And I'm guessing that didn't happen.
That's clearly happened for them with teal. They've got inspection drones and similar stuff. And I thought that Fat Shark were featuring within that inspection drone market. What does his actual main company do? It looks like a holding company. So it's Red Cat Holdings, right? Its job is to own other companies.
Yeah, it's just a place for them to sit and be provide a portfolio. But contracts for the military are where the money is for technology, definitely. Because I know with the stuff I've done in the past, the drone systems that we make in the hobby that might be $9,000-$10,000 that we think are ridiculously expensive. The same kind of capability, it's you could buy a house for the equivalent system, military grade.
We've literally seen the same things. Like I've seen the old Skywalker models appear on military videos with a modern camo paint, and that's been sold for like multiple thousands, not £100, which is what it should be.
It'll be more than I guarantee. It'll be more than multiple thousands. It will be tens of thousands.
Well, you can see the markup. The markup used to get for medical equipment. You could take a crappy old 12-inch, 14-inch VGA monitor, and if you got it through medical certification, you could charge thousands of pounds for that. Now imagine that, but with much larger budgets. That's the military.
Yeah, because you've got all the contracts then for support, maintenance, spares, all that stuff. It becomes very lucrative. I thought if it was going to happen for someone like Fat Shark with the walk snail system, with all the stuff going on in Ukraine, because that's really proven that small, portable, hobby grade drone systems still can be useful in a battlefield situation.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be something the size of a Ford Focus that you launch off a bungee. It can be something that fits in the backpack, a Phantom or a Mavic Mini or whatever, or even a little quad like we make and build. I thought that would, people would have been like, right, let's box this up, let's make it so it's, kind of troop portable and usable. I wonder if that was all part of what's going on, because I know that it seemed to be that Greg, who was the power behind Fat Shark, the guy started it all. I know Greg reasonably well, and it just seemed to be that after the acquisition, he was less and less involved on a daily basis of what was going on. Because he was the guy that was
so much so that infamously Walk Snail got his name wrong when they launched the goggles. They got called Gurgles for a while because they attributed the Fat Shark relationship to an individual called Gurg. instead of even spelling his name correctly.
Maybe
No
somebody sneezed when they
way.
said it.
Way. Yeah, in the press release, they said thank you to Gerg and Fat Shark.
I think the story goes that when Greg was wheeled out for that Rotor Riot marketing stunt before Walksnail was that he got his own set at the point they pushed him in front of Josh Bardwell to do the interview. So he hadn't actually had his hands on them. He was just a figurehead that was kind of wheeled out with a
Apparently,
script.
he's infamously uncomfortable in front of a camera, and he had a tough time in that shoot.
It didn't come across as natural.
No.
Yeah. So I was disappointed that was the case, because it used to be when I had a problem with something that I was doing, I could ping Greg, and Greg, he's a technologist. You know, he's like a Tony Stark kind of figure, because you know when you talk to him on Skype, he's there soldering while he's nattering to you. You know, he's that kind of guy. And I'd ring him, and it's like, I honestly don't know, Lee, because I haven't been involved in it. And I was just like, oh, this is heartbreaking, because he was the guy that was, you know, he used to take a lot of flack, because every time that, you know, brought out goggles, everyone went, ooh, crap. And although everyone said that, every thumbnail was always Fat Shark Killer every time a set of goggles came out. And then, you know, people like him and Trappy, they always seem to have a big target on the back. But it was a shame that he wasn't there, you know, kind of driving everything, because he understood what the hobby was about, and because he was a pilot and he was building stuff that he wanted to use. And I think I definitely feel that once, have they brought out any other goggles apart from the Walksnail after the acquisition? I don't think they have they?
They Attitude
There was a
V5s, the green ones, or the new
There's that
digital
brief
box goggles.
HD
Scout
box one.
HD. The Scout HD appeared. They were called an alpha product, although they were sold with HD Zero, right?
That was it. I think that's the only one. I think because the green Attitude V3s, I think were already. I knew that they were coming before the acquisition happened, so they'd been in the pipeline for ages. It was one of those things where Fat Shark, I don't think, wanted to release them because there were loads of Attitude V2s in the channel.
And because they love releasing things with the same name, there's going to be another Scout HD that's going to be Walksnail, and they're both called Scout HD. So if you buy a Scout HD, you may end up with HD Zero, you may end up with Walksnail. You know,
who knows?
Dealer's choice.
Well, it's just as confusing now because radio manufacturers have at least 3 versions of every radio, don't they? They have the one that's the 4-in-1. They have the ELRS version. The number of emails I get with people going, I'm trying to bind to my Spectrum receiver and I can't do it. And I go, okay, what radio have you got? And they go, I've got the Radio Master TX16S ELRS edition. And you go, and what are you? Right, I think I've found the problem. Lots of, you know, because they just all, without, if they're not in the hobby, they don't realize that, you know, like you said, the little thing at the back, they're going to have to buy something to plug into that hole.
Multi-module. Right. That is all we have time for, unfortunately. Lee, you have been fantastic. Thank you
thanks for
so
letting me on.
much.
It's been lovely to hang out. Thank you, guys.
So, you know it's good when time just flies by. I was just like...
Zoom.
Oh, man. Now it's time to put my pajamas on.
And also, thank you to our amazing Patreons. Thank you, everyone in the chat, everyone donating. Thanks very much.
I would, if I could just find a lighter, I would have a little woofle for you. But I can't.
And if we've got time for a very quick check in the chat, Tyrannus, as these two down here say, or Tyrannus. If you say Tyrannus, like Tyrannus, but put 6 A's in it or something.
I would say Tyrannus. The same as I would say Tarantula, I think.
Yeah.
Tyrannus.
Don't ask me. I was calling. I got called out for calling a Nazi 32 the wrong name.
Do you mean the nays?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Quick nitpick as well. We've got you on. Why do you always refer to air units that have had their casing removed as skeletonized when everyone else calls them naked?
I think it's a legacy thing from back from my IT days. That's amazing, Jack, by the way. Do not set yourself on fire, for crying out loud.
Zero.
I can send you the file for that if you want. If you want to print one yourself, I don't recommend that you should.
But if you do print one, you're going to have to pay them a licensing fee. Just be aware.
No.
Up front.
Big price.
Yeah. Creative Commons. Let's just check what license it's available under before we commit.
Yeah, and also you can make it like I have. If you get
Oh
one of
my.
the old PlayStation springs that use the lid, you can make it so it can just stay there like a flaming torch, and then it
What could go wrong?
Yeah.
Fine.
You can kind of-
Just cut out the middleman and hold
Fine.
a flame with lighter fluid
So,
if you want.
yeah,
Don't do that.
You could literally just set it, and then it just sits there, like, but you know, like
Yeah,
a tiki
'cause-
torch.
It's 3D printable plastic. What can possibly go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, thank
That's
you,
awesome, Jack.
Patreons. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Thank you, Tony, for preparing to get unnaked and come on the show. Thank you, Andrew/Frank. We miss you so much because you organised and did fun things, and we loved you for it. You've been joined by the man with the moustache,
Good
Stephen.
evening.
Everyone's favourite curry kitten,
Goodbye.
and the number one viewer, like, subscribed, and if you've made it this far in the video, Painless 360.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for hanging out. It's been really fun to see you all again.
Yeah, and I've been Brighton till I fly. And editor, good luck editing this shit show. Thank you. Good night. Bye.
I think it
Bye.
was clean until you said shit show. I mean, really? Come
I
on.
think
Not
that was
with
literally
curry
the only one.
kittens. Curry kittens thing. I think you can get away with